We all know how the fight between Jake and Mike Perry turned out. The whole boxing community has been buzzing with different reactions here and there. Here are some of them. Let's recall that the tension hit the peak before the fight when Conor McGregor took jabs at Jake Paul during a BKFC press conference. After recently acquiring a stake in the Bare Knuckle Fighting League, he quickly threw his support behind Mike Perry in the upcoming match against Paul, whom he mockingly referred to as a little dweeb. Paul, known for always stirring the pot, first targeted Perry and the entire bare knuckle fighting scene before redirecting his attention directly at McGregor. Paul, brimming with confidence, asserted that McGregor's praise for the BKFC would blow up in his face. He boasted that he would utterly humiliate their best fighter, effectively embarrassing the whole league. According to Paul, the bare knuckle fighters were nothing but unskilled brawlers, and he scoffed at the notion that McGregor would ever step into the ring with him.
My predictions are never wrong, so I stand on business every single time. I manifest it into reality. I, Jake Joseph Paul, will knock out Mike Perry in less than 2 rounds. It's gonna happen. Put the money on it. And that's what matters, is getting the experience under the bright lights. And this is a Mike appetizer, Mike warm-up.
While he was still bragging about what he would do in the ring, Paul also used the opportunity to push the idea of moving to bare knuckle fighting for a rematch with Perry after their boxing match. Perry, of course, scoffed at the idea, doubting that Paul would have the guts to face him in a no-gloves fight. Paul has been gunning for a match with McGregor for years, but it hasn't materialized, mainly because McGregor is still under UFC contract. He floated the notion of a boxing match with McGregor, although he probably won't get the answer he's hoping for. Paul was confident that after he takes down Perry, McGregor will have no choice but to face him. He taunted McGregor, suggesting that he should clean up his act, get back to training, and start winning fights if he ever wants to seriously consider stepping into the ring with him.
As your fight ended, Conor McGregor said Mike Perry was fired from the BKFC.
Oh my!
Did he really?
Yeah. And he took shots at you. He called you some derogative term. Any message for Conor McGregor?
Hey, that's up that you fired your BKFC champion, but
face of BKFC.
I told you that was gonna happen. You know, I told you exactly what was gonna happen. He was big upping his boy Mike Perry. I said, okay, Conor, like after I Mike Perry, then you're next. So Conor's on Twitter all the time. He's on his yacht all the time, but guess where he's not? In the ring fighting me. So he can talk all the he wants, but the notorious MMA is scared of Jake Joseph Paul from Disney Channel. And I put that on my mama.
Although McGregor has a stake in BKFC now, Perry wasn't in any way happy with his comments. However, Perry did take a stand for bare knuckle fighters in response to Paul's criticisms. At the BKFC press conference, McGregor lauded Perry as one of their big stars, even dubbing him the King of Violence. Perry quickly reminded everyone that the title was officially given to him by BKFC after his win over former UFC champion Eddie Alvarez. And he emphasized that he was a BKFC co-owner before McGregor ever joined. Perry didn't hold back when discussing Paul, calling him a disrespectful punk and pointing out that the bare knuckle fighters put everything on the line for their families and fans. July 20th had been circled on many calendars, eagerly awaited since the shocking announcement of a boxing match between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. However, when Tyson suffered a sudden ulcer flare-up, doubts about the bout began to swirl, leading Tyson to ultimately postpone the fight. Prioritizing his health, Tyson decided it was best to wait until he was in great condition before taking on the much younger Paul. In Tyson's place, Mike Perry stepped up to fight Paul, with Tyson himself advising Paul to stay cautious. Paul revealed the advice Tyson had personally given him, sharing that Tyson expressed serious concerns about him taking on Perry, labeling Perry a killer. Despite these warnings, Paul remained unfazed, sending a message back to Tyson not to worry, promising to put this guy to sleep and treating the fight with Perry as a mere appetizer before facing Tyson. Interestingly, while Paul exudes confidence about facing Tyson, he also seems to show a rare concern for the 58-year-old's well-being, a level of respect not often displayed by Paul towards his other opponents. This respectful attitude towards Tyson stands out, contrasting sharply with Paul's usual brash persona.
Different date, same fate. I'm gonna knock out Jake Paul.
Before the fight, Mike Perry was determined to leave Tampa with much more than he came with, planning to bring back a few extra surprises to Orlando. Perry was confident he would secure the win, the money, and make a statement by defeating Jake Paul. Since parting ways with the UFC, Perry has found tremendous success, becoming a star in the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, BKFC, and winning all his bare knuckle bouts. His impressive track record boasts knockout victories over former UFC champions like Eddie Alvarez and Luke Rockhold, as well as former UFC title contender Thiago Alves.
Oh, look at my reaction. Oh, oh no. T. Wood.
Perry's extensive combat experience was a significant factor he believed would give him the edge in the fight against Paul, despite Paul's professional boxing background. Perry emphasized that his diverse fighting career, which includes years of MMA, bare knuckle, and boxing, made him the undefeated king of violence. His confidence was evident as he mentioned that he has defeated opponents who had never been beaten before, showcasing his prowess and resilience in the ring. Platinum Mike Perry was clear that a surprise victory over Jake Paul would open doors to endless future opportunities, and he was more than ready to grab them. With a jab at Paul, he highlighted that while Jake had lost a minor fight to Tommy Fury, he was gearing up to demolish him. Perry emphasized that while Jake might have the boxing skills, Perry has the fighting spirit. He said, "Jake lost a little baby fight to Tommy Fury, but I'm here to smash him. Jake can box, but I can fight. What do you do to a boxer? You fight him. You pull him into the deep waters and you wring his neck." Perry conveyed a sense of boundless possibilities, expressing his eagerness to step into the ring with Paul. He pointed out that all eyes and cameras were on Paul, but they should have been on him for years. Perry has been dedicated, pouring his heart into the sport and relentlessly training to deliver outstanding performances for his fans on fight night. His determination and passion for fighting were unmistakable, and he was ready to show the world what he's truly capable of. "Anything I want is possible. Anything I want to happen can happen. I'm excited for the opportunity to fight this guy. He's got all the people watching, all the cameras, and they should have been watching me for years because I've been pouring my heart into this sport, and I give everything I've got into training so that I can come and perform for the fans on fight night," Perry said. Veteran analyst Dan Hardy was quite taken aback by Jake Paul's decision to risk his highly anticipated bout with Mike Tyson by agreeing to fight Mike Perry. Hardy couldn't fathom why Paul would expose himself to Perry's punches, given Perry's reputation for savoring such opportunities. Perry, though never a top UFC contender, had always been a fan favorite due to his consistent entertainment value. His switch to bare-knuckle boxing with BKFC showcased his true potential, allowing him to find his niche and thrive. According to Hardy, Perry thrives in striking sports where he doesn't have to worry about grappling or being taken down, making him a perfect fit for such intense bouts. While Paul is known for his size, power, conditioning, and rapidly improving boxing skills, evident in his dominant performance against Nate Diaz, where Diaz failed to land significant hits or disrupt Paul, Hardy pointed out that Perry introduces a whole new level of ferocity to the ring.
So he can be antagonistic.
Yeah.
And so it was always going to take someone like a Jake Paul to be able to cause these kind of, conversations to be happening about fighter pay. It needs to happen. It's frustrating.
Hardy highlighted that Perry's fighting style brings an intensity that Paul likely hasn't faced before. This prompted Hardy to urge Paul to treat the bout with the utmost seriousness or risk finding himself dazed under the arena lights. Perry's ability to deliver a relentless and brutal performance in the ring was something Paul needed to be prepared for, adding another layer of intrigue to this unexpected matchup. And honestly, let's face it, before the fight, we all thought the unpredictability and pressure Perry brings could pose a significant challenge for Paul, making this matchup all the more intriguing. Even the legendary Mike weighed into the topic, giving Paul some warnings. Just like many others in the boxing community, Dan Hardy had acknowledged Paul's impressive record against seasoned MMA fighters, but emphasized that none of them have the ferocity of Perry. Hardy suggested that Paul might be in for a rude awakening if he's not fully prepared for what Perry brings to the table.
I like those. I don't necessarily like the moving back and forth between a ring and a cage, but I certainly do like the small glove striking matches.
Hardy compared Paul's past opponents to Perry, suggesting that while fighting Nate Diaz might feel like a grueling experience, it wouldn't be as painful. And Ben Askren's boxing threats were minimal. Even Tyron Woodley posed a danger only when he actually threw punches. In contrast, Perry combines all these challenges, bringing a relentless, chaotic energy to his fights that Paul likely hasn't faced before. Hardy implied that Perry's wild and intense style could present a whole new set of problems for Paul. Hardy said, "Against Nate Diaz, you're going to feel like you're being waterboarded, but you might not feel like you're getting hurt. Against Ben Askren, what are you going to worry about when he's wearing boxing gloves? Against Tyron Woodley, he's dangerous if he throws something. With Mike Perry, you've got all of those problems rolled into one." Hardy also had some things to say about Mike Tyson. He recognized that while Tyson's legendary status remains, his prime days are long gone. Even if Paul manages to defeat Tyson, it wouldn't carry the same weight as beating a younger, more formidable version of the boxing icon. Hardy suggested that fighting Tyson now might give Paul a big payday and plenty of publicity, but it wouldn't earn him the accolades that a victory over a peak Tyson would. Defeating a 58-year-old Tyson might just cast Paul in a negative light, regardless of the fight's outcome. Hardy said, "There's always a danger fighting someone like Mike Tyson, but you just don't get a great deal from beating him at this stage, at this age." He didn't get the accolades that he would have for beating Anderson Silva because Silva was 47, and with Tyson, it would just cast him in a bad light, regardless of how the fight played out. Tony Bellew also shared his thoughts on the upcoming bout, predicting that Jake Paul would put on an unforgettable performance. He commended Jake and his team for making the fight happen, noting that Paul could have easily waited for the Tyson match instead. Bellew pointed out that Paul was keen to stay active and avoid long periods of inactivity, showing his commitment to the sport. Bellew added, "Jake Paul to win, and do you know what? I think he'll look good doing so." Fair play to Jake and his team for getting this on, as he easily could have sat this one out and waited for the Tyson fight to come around.
I don't see absolutely any risk for Jake Paul. He's going in there with a professional fighter.
Bellew acknowledged that Paul would be facing a seasoned fighter, but he expressed confidence that the fight wouldn't last long. He believed that Paul had already proven his ability to compete with MMA fighters in a boxing ring and expected him to showcase his skills once again with a dramatic early knockout. With these comments from the boxing industry, it seems the coming days are going to be super interesting. Do stick with us for more updates. See you in the next video.